Welcome to the Grow Fast podcast, where we talk with leading sales, marketing, and personal growth experts about how companies can accelerate sales, optimize marketing, and grow their businesses fast. Let's go. Hi, Mario. How you been, man?
Mark, I'm so excited to be here with you again. Thank you so much, buddy, for having me.
Are you down in sunny California someplace?
No, I wish I was in Southern California. I am literally inside of San Francisco, sunny Bay Area is where I'm at.
I said sunny California, not Southern California, so I was kind of right. But
there you go. Sorry, I misunderstood you. Then yes, I'm in beautiful California, and finally, we are now getting summer. It was a very mild summer in terms of temperatures, and we're now finally starting to heat up.
You know, one of the reasons I love the sunshine is, for me, I wake up and if it's a sunny day, for whatever reason, my motivation just jumps, 10, 20, 30%. And I don't know what that is, because, external factors shouldn't kind of affect my motivation, but they do. And I'm kind of looking forward to talking to you about how to stay motivated, one, in the context of selling, but two, just in life in general, and what you do and things like that. But before we get started, maybe you can talk a little bit about, because you're running a couple of businesses. You're running Vangresso. You are the host and founder or creator of the Modern Selling Podcast. I don't know how many hundreds of episodes you've done, but a lot. Takes a lot of energy. I also know that you're a very involved father. Takes a lot of energy. Tell me a little bit about like your mindset when you set out to do something. How do you stay motivated and say, like, you know what, I'm going to get through this no matter what?
Wow, that's a very big question, because let me assure you that there are lows. As many highs as I have, there are as many lows. And one of the things that you got to do is to drive yourself into a zone, and that zone has got to be focused in on how do you win at all costs, because losing is not an option. But it's actually interesting. I think if I go back to the defining moment of my drive, it goes back to a story that started in high school. And as a direct result of going back to high school, this one moment in life defined who I am today and the last 27 years inside of business. You mind if I share it?
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for you to share it, man. Come on, man.
So here we go. I came from a poor Hispanic family, and we didn't have very much money. And as a direct result, when I went to go apply for colleges, my family and I only had enough money to apply for one college. And that was in the UC system back then for University of California, Berkeley, UCLA, Santa Barbara, any of those UCs. You had to apply for each university to get your application in. Mm-hmm. So it was $40, and we had $41.
Wow!
And so I applied to UC Berkeley, which was my dream school, and my dream school essentially was UC Berkeley, and that's where I wanted to go. If I didn't get in, I was thinking I was going to go to massage therapy school. That's kind of where my mindset was. So I had a GPA that was 3.97, something like that, all honors, AP classes, and every club. I was lettered in football. And so I knew what I needed to do to be able to get there. I also knew that I was a horrible test taker. And so actually, when it came to the SATs, which was the application for your college admission, I actually got a 990. That was my highest score on the SAT after taking it 3 times. Mm-hmm. So it was a 990. Now, generally speaking, to get into UC Berkeley or UCLA, which are the two best UC universities in the California system, you had to have at least 1200 to be able to get in. So I was like, well, shoot, I got nothing to lose. It's all or nothing. I'm going all in, and all chips on red, all chips on black, wherever it's going, right? And so I applied. I wrote a check for $40 out of 41. And University of Berkeley is always the last UC of all, I think it's 9 universities in California now, that notifies its applicants of whether or not they got accepted or denied. They're always the last one to send it out. I think the deadline is March 15th for them to send. And generally you'll receive it on March 16th or March 17th, if I remember the dates correctly. Nonetheless, we were in class in calculus, actually. And those that applied to Berkeley were all talking in the class about whether or not they got in. I got in, I didn't get in. Oh, crap, oh man, I was really bummed. And so there was at least maybe 15 of us out of a group of 30 that applied to UC Berkeley. So I was one of the last students that said, I got in. I actually applied and I got in, which was phenomenal. So I remember the day. I remember the moment. I remember the person. I remember the scene. I remember his name, first and last name, which I won't use just in case that person or family member is ever listening to this show. I don't want to embarrass him in this way, but he's sitting on top of the desk, and one foot on top of the seat that you sit in and one leg straight down, butt rested on top of the desk. And then I announce, I got in. And everybody was like, what? That's amazing. And they all knew my story. I only had enough money to apply for one college. And so it was unbelievable that I actually got into the one that I wanted. And he replied with, what? Wait, how did you get in and I didn't?
Wow.
And so everybody was like, huh? Looked over, and we were all, and I was really shocked. I was really shocked. Now, there's those things sometimes, Mark, that happens in life, and it happens to every one of us. I don't care who you are, that you think something, but you don't say it, right? Because you're like, no, I don't think, no, that should have been right. Right. And that may have been true. Like maybe he truly thought that I didn't deserve to get accepted to UC Berkeley, and especially with a 990 SAT score. But the difference is I was involved in every single club you could possibly think of, from mock trial to math counts to Samaing Filipino to Latinos Unidos to lettering in football, all 4 years, to all league center on the offensive line. Right. So I had like the whole thing in terms of the package, except for those SAT scores. And I looked at him when he said that. And I remember I was sitting right next to him, and I looked over to my right and I looked at him like, fool, did you really just say that? But then there was one more thing he said, and he goes, I know why you got in. And we were all like, okay, where is this about to go? Now, remember, the teacher's name was Mrs. Bott. This is how much this is visually imprinted into my brain. She was sitting at the old projector with a clear plastic thing that you wrote on the Sharpies on, that you could
the
spray.
transparencies.
The transparencies. There you go.
Yeah,
she was sitting there. The light was on. Her arm was resting on the thing, and she was going over some numbers.
None of the kids will know. Sorry, man. Sorry, but none of the kids will know what the hell we're talking about these days.
I know. Yeah, all the Gen Zers that are listening in right now. It's called a transparency. The projector sat on a cart. It was at least 12 inches by 12 inches, maybe 18 by 18, and had a big old light and had a big fan, and it produced a lot of heat.
Exactly.
So anyways, her hand was on the transparency, and he says, I know why you got in. You got in because you're Mexican.
Wow.
And that's when the moment in time where you heard the pin drop in the classroom, you heard the gas and the And at that time, affirmative action was a really big thing. And people were pro-affirmative action, against affirmative action. It was present. It was alive. It was very much helping those that were underprivileged individuals get accepted into the university systems, and very much targeting Hispanic and Black and other ethnic backgrounds that maybe didn't have necessarily the same exact privileges that other people had. Now, did they take a schmuck that did not qualify into the university just because they were of in this case, Latino descent? No, generally not. But did I not hit the metric in one area, but well exceeded in another area, right? I think so.
Right.
Nonetheless, I looked at him and I said, I have no idea why I got in. But there's one thing I do know. And he goes, what's that? And I said, that I got in and you didn't.
Damn.
And at that point, the whole class said, ooh, right? like they just heard it. Now these are all like, we're all the super brainiac kids, right? And at that moment in time, I was so welled up with emotion because I was angry that someone would actually say that I didn't have the right to have a seat at the table. I got up and I walked out without permission. Mrs. Bott looked at me and she just watched me walk across the room and walk out the door. That was it. I walked out the door because I was so angry over the fact that somebody would say something like that I didn't deserve a seat at the table. And it was at that moment in time, as I'm walking down the hall to cool off, that I said to myself, it doesn't matter why you got in. All that matters now is what are you going to do with the opportunity you were given?
Mm-hmm.
And that right there, that one single moment in time is exactly the mindset and the brain that you bring to every opportunity. Who cares why you got the opportunity? Who cares why you were given the privilege? Who cares if you had a leg up because you knew somebody or you're of Black, Latino, or of some descent that is underprivileged? Who cares if someone says, you know what, I'm going to give this one guy a shot just because I always pick? And it's the exact situation that happened to me when I got my first 6-figure base salary job at the age of 21 years old.
Not bad. That was
and I remember, and this is I'm going to say his name. His name was Jeff Max. And Jeff Max said he was hiring 35 people. And he said he always chooses to hire one wild card. And he told me flat out, one wild card. The wild card is my gut says yes, but everything on paper says no. That's what he said. My gut says yes, but everything on paper. And at that time it was Sprint, the corporation Sprint that's now acquired by T-Mobile. They were actually building out a $3 billion co-location and web hosting startup. And they were hiring the first 35 salespeople. And so they were using all the metrics that Sprint told them to use, which was the personality profiling, the testing, the experience, all that stuff. And of course, if you knew Sprint, they were a Kansas City company. They were extremely conservative in everything they did. So they're trying to use this conservative process to hire for a startup like business that they're investing $3 billion into. And so Jeff Max says, listen, I want you to know, first off, you got the job, right? We're going to secondly, with 100% certainty, every single metric in this organization said, do not hire you. And I thought, why would you tell me this? Why would you tell me this? But then he says, however, I have a policy when I'm doing large hiring sprees. I always choose a wild card. And the wild card is one person. The data says don't, but I say my gut says yes. So I'm going to try that on you. I was the youngest hire to ever be inside of that organization from that point until they sold off at T-Mobile. The next highest younger was 28 years old that had at least 5 years worth of experience. And most of them were average age of 30 because they wanted 15 years worth of enterprise selling experience. And so he took the chance and he took the wild card. And the same thing happened then when I got hired there. It was very much specifically, don't ask why you got the opportunity. The question is, what are you going to do with it? And so you asked me about the seed of motivation. That's it. No matter what's being given to you, even if it's a small thing, an email from a customer or a prospect that says, I'm interested in taking the meeting. Don't ask, why me? Why did it happen to me? Now, what are you going to do with the opportunity? Right. And that's really the message that I want to give any single business owner or salesperson listening in. It doesn't matter why. All that matters is what are you going to do with it? Now, the why blows up your ego. The why makes you feel important. The why makes you feel like you can do it. And so is it nice to know? Yes, absolutely. But it's all about right now. If you don't know the why, I never found out the reason why UC Berkeley brought me into the school. Never. And I never will. because that's somewhere stoked up in some file cabinet of how they decided to be able to select individual students. Never found that out. I did find the reason why Jeff Max decided to hire me of one of those first 35. And he was like, you have everything that I feel, my gut says you have everything it takes for the person to succeed in this role. What you're lacking is the experience. The question is, well, how will you get the experience? So I'm going to take the wild card on you. And so that was good to know, right? Because I knew that he was giving me a shot at that. Just so you know, the story continues that I started with one of the first 35. And when they decided to close that business unit down, I was one of the last 2 salespeople that they kept on board, because I was the top performing salesperson for the entire division of Sprint eSolutions. And as a result, they promised me, if you stay with us and close out all the contracts and transition it over to our acquirer that we're selling all the assets to, we'll find you a home in the mothership. And that's exactly what happened.
Awesome. I love both those stories. And, you know, I think that it sounds like you took that initial interaction in your AP calculus class from that person, and you kind of turned that into some additional fuel. Not even sure if you needed it. I mean, you graduated 3.97 grade GPA. You know, you lettered in football 4 years. You were involved in various clubs. I think that you were pretty, kind of motivated early on. And I want to come back to that in a second. But you didn't get hung up on what that person said to you, other than, you know what, I'm just going to go out and make the best of it. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Private Ryan, and the one of the final scenes is Tom Hanks is laying there, he's mortally wounded, and he says to Matt Damon, "Earn it." And don't ask why. You've been given this gift, right? Go out and earn it. And so you were given a gift, and you earned a gift, whatever it is. Anybody who gets into Berkeley, you have to say it's a gift, okay? And whether you earned it, I mean, everybody goes there, earns it. There's no ifs about it. Everybody there deserves to be there. But go ahead and use that opportunity and earn it. And this other gentleman that hired you gave you an opportunity. He told you why. You didn't overthink it though. You just said, "I'm going to go out and earn it." You became the top producer. So that's awesome, man. But let me back up a step, because I hear a lot from kids these days, mid-career professionals, that it's like, I don't know, I'm just not that motivated. You were motivated from a very young age. How do you, because you talk with sales teams, you do sales training. When people are working on, like, God, I don't know, the doldrums, for example, which I can understand. I can understand, emotionally being down. But in terms of not being motivated for your career, I think there are some bigger questions there. But how do you advise people? Because not everybody's as, motivated as you were way back when.
Yeah, this has a lot to do with, the upbringing. I'm 100% positive of that. And it's actually something I struggle with now. And I'm fortunate that, my children are not growing up in the same way that I grew up in, right? Which I did have a great family life. Being from Hispanic background, we had a big family, 5 kids, a dog, a parrot, a cat, and mom and dad, right? So, and we always had people over all the time around the house, right? It was very traditional Hispanic family, but we didn't have a lot. And so, the defining moments of what drove me to, excel inside of high school to be able to get to college was the fact that I did see my parents struggle. I did see all the fights that they had over they didn't have the money. I did see my mom decide not to eat in order to make sure that all the kids had food. I did see that she would always set aside a plate of food for my dad, who wouldn't get home until 10 o'clock at night. He'd leave 4 a.m, 10 o'clock at night, in order to be able to drive a truck so that he can come back and he can eat as well, right? So I saw all those things, and it was one of those things that I said, I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my family. I don't want that for my future. And so, interestingly enough, and this is no knock against my mom and my dad, who I love very, very, very much, and I'm very close to, but not one point in time in high school, not one point in time did they ever have to say to me, "Hey, what do you need to do to get into Berkeley?" I figured it out on my own, because I knew what I didn't want, which was this life, and I knew I wanted something better. So that seed of motivation came from watching the outside world and then processing that. Now, I think most teenagers would not do that. I think, and I look at a lot of the teenagers today, that's not normal. But when you come from an environment like that, you begin to build I have to change. I have to be different. And so I also had teachers as well who invested in me, right? Because they saw the potential. And I had a principal, her name was Pat Gaudet, and she was at my high school. And boy, she took a huge interest in me as an individual. And she told me early on in my freshman year that you have potential and you could go to college. And subsequently in my senior year, she gave me the school's scholarship grant to be able to help pay my way, which, by the way, I had to pay my own way through college in order to be able to go that route. And then my dad did something for me. It was between junior and senior year. And that was, again, another defining moment that I had. And I'm always looking for ways to be able to try to define these moments for my children as well. But my dad, he worked for the Teamsters. He was a truck driver, short haul. And so he said, hey, you're going to go work on the docks of Consolidated Freightways. They're now went bankrupt and belly up. But he said, you're going to be able to make great money. And by the way, if you don't go to college, you could make a great living and have a pension, which he's now retired at the age of 56, living in Maui, by the way, right? So all the struggles, but he's retired, and he's retired as a result of the pension that came from the Teamsters. So he said, I'm going to give you two options. You're either going to go make something of yourself, or you're going to become work for the Teamsters. And this is, I said, you can raise a family. Clearly I did. It's not the best life, but it's a life, right? And so he says, I want you to work on the docks. And I was like, okay, well, how much does it pay? Now, at that time, it was $5.25 was the minimum wage. When I first started working, it was $4.25. Then it went up to $5.25. But guess what? The Teamsters were paying for the casual work was $17 an hour. All right. Now, $17 an hour to a minimum wage of $5.25. As a kid, I thought I was rich, right? So at about 17 years old, I went and worked on the docks, and I started unloading 36-foot trailers of all the stuff that you unload the trailers on. You put them on the docks, and then they go start getting routed and distributed to other trailers so that they can go get shipped off to the stores, Macy's, etc. Right? So I did this for about a whole summer. And every time I finished that work, I was like, man, I'm so exhausted. And by the end of it, after a whole summer, I made amazing dollars. I was able to buy myself the clothing that I wanted, because my parents, all they could afford was Mervyn's or Montgomery Wards. We call it Monkey Wards. And I couldn't buy Nikes, so I could buy Cheetahs. Did I get made fun of? Yeah, I did. I got made fun of for wearing Cheetahs at school, right? How sad that kids make fun of other kids nowadays. But that having been said, I made a decision after I was done, which is, I know there's one thing that I never want to do. I never want to be a blue collar worker. Now, is there anything wrong with a blue collar worker? No, we need them. In fact, I use them all the time, and my friends and my buddies help me with construction projects all the time, plumbing, contracting, all that stuff.
And by the way, those jobs are probably not going to be threatened by AI. So you know what? There's a place.
That's absolutely right. Some of them are very secure in terms of the blue collar worker roles, including nursing as an example, right?
Exactly.
And so healthcare. So with that in mind, I made that decision, and that was between junior and senior year. Now, the good news is I already had 3 years of being able to do the right thing. But that final year, it was my dad's point was, you're either going to grow and you're going to go all in that senior year to be able to prove out that you have a place in the university system, or you're going to be like, hey, this is great money and I'm okay with this type of life. And so it did its job. My dad did his job, and that was, it defined me. And I was like, I'm never going to do it. And to this day, the only work that I do that is labor work is all here at my own house that I've got, or my houses that I've had in the past. And I've been fortunate to be able to sit at the desk. Now, that comes with a different set of problems. Like, I threw out my back the other day from picking up a sock because I'm sitting all the time. But that having been said, that was another defining moment for me as well. So,
well, you know what? You bring up a couple of really good points there. I think it's really important for everybody to have a diverse array of experiences. I think my first job was 8 years old, and I went door to door mowing lawns because we didn't have a lot of money. My mom had said, if you want money, go out there and knock on doors, mow the lawns. We would fill up her car with newspapers and take them to get recycled. Whatever. She was there for us, but we'd have to do the work. I actually worked as a longshoreman, casual worker, and same situation in between high school and college. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, nobody's ever given me a check for $21 an hour or whatever it was,
Exactly.
cause it was like, but another thing that you kind of tee up in my mind is one of the people that I spend a lot of time with these days is super successful, way more successful in terms of his career, professional career than I've ever been. Global role, doing all kinds of things. We had a conversation the other day and he's like, yeah, when I was in high school, I didn't even know what the SAT was because none of my friends were talking about the SAT. None of them wanted to go to college. He didn't go to college until a couple years out of high school where he decided, you know what, I don't want to go down that blue collar route. Nothing against that, but he was just on a track, that wasn't taking him to where he wanted to go. And it took a while to figure that out. I, on the other hand, was surrounded by people that were kind of on that academic route, talking about the PSAT, the SAT, prep courses. I didn't really go down the route as far as them, but I was aware of it, and I took those the tests so that I could pave the way to get admitted to schools. How important it is for you? Okay, we can talk about in the context of kids, but you can also talk about in the company or in your career to surround yourself by people who are going in that direction. How did you find? Because you grew up in a family where they weren't telling you about, hey, you need to prep for the SAT. How did you build your peer group or surround yourself with people? And how would you talk or advise people who are working in a company to surround themselves with the right people? How does that work?
So it's interesting you asked that question because there was, and again, if I think about my childhood, and there are defining moments and experiences that in your childhood create you as who you are in your personality. And I think they say by the time that you're 12 years old, 50% of your personality is already developed, right? Unfortunately, I had a need and a craving for attention. I really did. And that was because my biological mom, she left me when I was 5 years old, and she kind of fell out of the picture until I was about 13, 14 years old. And that takes a huge toll on a young boy who wants to be loved by a mom, right? And so that had a major impact on that. Now, fortunately, my mom, who I said my mom earlier, my mom and my dad, that's actually my stepmom I'm referring to. But no one even knows that she's my stepmom because she took me in at the age of 5. My biological mom left me. My stepmom took me in, and she raised me as her own. And to this very day, she is my mom, right? That is who
Awesome.
Mom is. And so, but that did create a situation inside my personality, which was a desire to always be, to want to be accepted, if you would, and the desire to be acknowledged for who I was. So the good, every strength is also a weakness. The good is that it created this desire. The bad is that it created this desire. and that it was sometimes an insatiable need for acknowledgement. And so as a direct result, inside of school, from elementary school to junior high, I started trying to hit the peaks. Whoever was the best in the room, I wanted to be better than them so that I can get the accolades and the acknowledgement. Now, that was the wrong thinking, and I know exactly when that happened, and I can even think back of those moments now as an adult. But if we think about it and take that context, of how do you accelerate yourself in the workplace? Who do you surround yourself with? That's exactly the same thing that we need to do. But now you can do it in such a way, hopefully you don't have a background like myself, where the drive is being created as a result of filling a void, right? You don't want to do that because you want to fill a void. But with that in mind, what I think the key here is that we want to look at who is the person that we aspire to be like. Who is the best one to be able to mirror yourself after and strive to do the same exact type of things that they're doing? Because if they're the best in the industry, the best in the segment, the best in the company, the best in the business, the best in sales, then you know that they've got some sort of formula. They're doing something that will allow them to be able, or that allows them to exceed or hit the markers that you will aspire to want to be like. And so that becomes then a friendly competition. It becomes a competition. They may not ever even know that you're competing against them. but
Hmm.
you really want to be focused in on looking at those things and watching those things. And so with that in mind, it does require for you to be able to surround yourself with those that are also have the same exact goals as you, to be able to be the best at whatever it is that you're trying to be. I'd also say that my dad was very instrumental in forming a thought in my brain, and that he always said, "Hey, mijo, I don't care what you're going to do. I don't care if you're going to be a scientist. I don't care if you're going to be a garbage man. Whatever the case might be, whatever you do, just remember, just do your best. Just do your best." And then he would say, and after you do your best, try to be the best at it. Try to be the best at it. And so perhaps that was a little bit unbalanced thinking, right? To be the best. No one ever could be the best at anything, right? There's always going to be something or someone. And you've always got to keep your ego in check. And I think that's super important. You got to keep your ego in check. But I think that's really important. As young professionals are getting into the workplace, you've got to look at who are the folks that are really excelling. And you go and target those individuals. And when I say target those individuals, you want to be looking at how do you become friends with them? How do you mirror their behavior? How do you look at their behavior and say, I can maybe make this a one-up. I can actually make this a little bit better. And then try it. Don't be afraid to try those things. On the flip side, people say you are what you eat, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's also true of you are who you are around.
Yeah.
And so if you aspire to have a goal to be X, the question is how do you be around those individuals that have the same type of goals as you? If you have individuals that you're around that don't have these same aspirations, but are supportive of you, great. But if you mm-hmm. have these individuals that you're around that don't have the same vision as you and are not supportive, bad, right? And so that's the things I think people need to think about in terms of categorizing the who you hang out with and the what you do. And if other people aren't regulating you, I think that's another key right there. So I talk about this with my boys all the time, right? If you're about to do something and you know it's not cool, but you're going to do it anyways and nobody regulates you, no, that's not the right person to be around, right? And we're not talking about something that you do like, jump off the bridge or something like that. We're talking about things that, as an example, we were just at Six Flags, the theme park yesterday. And one of my son's friends was like, oh, put the cup on my head, put the cup on my head. And so I looked at this and I was like, guys, and I was about to say, don't let it fall off. And as soon as he did that, he took his head and he threw it over the banister and let the cup fall and littered, right? And it was like, bro, that's not cool. And so my son started laughing. He thought it was funny. And I was like, whoa, both of you guys, you're old enough. That's not cool, right? You're better than that. You see that garbage does not belong over there in the park. You do the right thing by picking it up and you go and put it in the trash. It's not cool just because you littered and then you're going to make somebody else pick it up. No, that's not cool. And so that's an example where as a parent, that's with a child, right? But I'm using that as a motion to be able to talk about, hey, don't do that inside the business workplace. That's not cool. So I think that's really important that people think about who they're around. Does it help them aspire to who they want to become, or are they supportive of who they want to become?
Awesome. Hey, just a couple more questions here. I think that's really great advice. And I personally, even if I can't physically be around people that kind of help facilitate my professional development or personal growth, I can do it virtually, whether it's through listening to an audiobook, a webinar, a podcast, something like that. Because, you said that you are what you eat. I also think that you are what you think about, and how you spend your time. And if you spend your time, watching, what's the Marvel movies, nothing against that, but if that's all you do all the time, I think you're going to plateau at a certain level of development, right?
Sure.
But I want to come back to that at the very tail end of this conversation in terms of your professional development. But let me ask you about energy. Okay. You're a busy guy and you're also, leading a family. You ever get physically tired? And how do you prevent that fatigue, mental and physical fatigue? What do you do?
So funny. I'm like the Energizer Bunny, man. And people
Okay.
have said, like, you just keep going and going and going. And, like investing into Vingresso, the creator, as the creators of Fly Message, converting us from a pure sales prospecting training company into a SaaS company with training. It was at kind of a prime, right? Starting at the age 39, and now I'm at 48 years old. But interesting, I'm almost approaching that 50 mark. And I got to tell you that all of a sudden I used to be able to work till 2:00 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. And about like 12:30, 1:00 in the morning, I'm over here at my keyboard and I'm like, falling asleep.
That's still not a bad day, man.
No, not a bad thing, but I could definitely feel that I'm slowing down. And I wish I could say that I'm the type of guy that is running and exercising and doing all those things. I'm not. I am the type of guy that gets his energy from other people. And so to your point, you are what you listen to. You are what you talk about, right? And so, yes, you can do it through podcasts like your podcast or the Modern Selling podcast that I've got, or any other great podcast that will help, keep you focused. You can listen to webinars. And what I also think you do is you go all in. And so for me, you talked about my boys. Man, I am all in with my boys, never missing an event with them, always taking them out, doing everything. Like they came in, they were going out to Six Flags again today with a bunch of friends. And so they came in and they're looking for, hey, does this match, Dad? Right? Because now they're getting into their looks, the shoes, the shorts, all that good stuff, the glasses, the chains, all that. They're like 15 years old and 11 years old. So now they're really concerned about that. So you really focus in on like, how do you take that and you go all in on something? Some people golf. Some people have an outlet to be able to just keep them focused and to keep them going. Mine is my boys. Me and my boys, man. Yeah. Like I told my wife, like, I don't know what I'm going to do when they turn 18 and they bounce out of here. I really don't know what I'm going to do with myself, but because it's all in on the boys. But I suppose I'll divert my attention to something else. And maybe I'll go back and play golf because I haven't played it in, 18 years. So
that's funny you say that. After we had our third, I have three boys. And after we had our third child, my wife said, no more golf. You're gone all day. He's like, and I've played like, I don't know, maybe 6 times in the last 18, 19 years. But our youngest he just graduated a year ago. He's out at university and it's like a whole nother world opens up. And so, yeah, haven't been out in the golf course yet, but done a lot of other things. So what you're telling me is you just got this kind of built-in extra double-sized battery that keeps you going. You love what you're doing. Your kids motivate you. But do you ever get, and you don't do a lot of, exercise, but you look pretty fit. Anything else that you do though to stay kind of sharp? Do you have any particular books or people that you follow that kind of helps to keep you motivated, or it's just all internal drive?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. So I haven't read a full book since I was 22 years old. I've never read a full book cover to cover. I've gotten a whole entire cabinet right behind me, a wall to wall of influencers' books that have sent it to me, asked me to do a review, all that good stuff. And I try reading them and I just don't. But what I do read is about a couple thousand blogs a year. And I watch a few hundred videos a year. So I'm a short form content type of guy. Call it my ADD, call it my, fast paced moving all the time. But I like consuming content in short form. And I do read a lot of content to keep up to date. And I also, I love the creative side of things. So on the marketing side, I love the idea of putting something together in a campaign and seeing where that campaign can grow and flourish at. So I really like to have that design flair along with the strategic side of where can something go. And I've also been privileged to developing a SaaS application for salespeople that helps to drive better messaging and help them, pitch better and train them. That I actually have been intimately involved in the UX UI. And so I always try to pick up something new. Every year I'm focusing on something new and then become a domain authority and expert on that particular area. And so as an example, UI UX, right? And so I can't say I'm a domain authority, but what I can say is I think I'm pretty darn good, right? And now every time go ahead.
I said you built an app. I mean, you've got more experience than most people. Yeah.
And it's interesting, you start looking at it. Every time you go into another app, you're like, oh, this is a horrible UI. It's a horrible UX. Like I had to click 6 times. And I'll talk about HubSpot. HubSpot just released this new feature, which is the auto save on all their properties. Now, before you used to be able to change everything and then you had to click one button to save. I hate the auto save. Why? Because every time you change one thing, it goes into auto save and it stops you from being able to save the next thing. Whereas before I could go click, 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 do all my things, hit save once and be done with it and let it save. But now I have to wait 10 to 15 seconds per item that I want to change. And I'm like, that's a horrible UX. So anyways, I really start to, every year I try to take on a new project and invest myself into something. Same thing with my kids. They got invested into basketball. I'm not a basketball guy at all. In fact, asked me to do a layup and they call me the hippo ballerina. I look like a hippo ballerina. They're like trying to do a layup. But I tell you this much, I studied basketball, became a coach, and in 3 years for our league over here, we took the championship, right? And that's what I did. And then I started a private league for 100 plus kids that are in the area. And now I'm the league commissioner for basketball. I didn't know anything about it, but it was because someone else had an interest and I wanted to take that interest and learn something new. So message is always be learning.
Always be learning. ABL,
always be
man.
learning. Always be learning. ABL. Always be learning and invest in it, whether it's for you, for your company, for your role, for your family, for your kids, for your wife. Always be learning and invest in it, right? Go all in. And part of that is the drive. Yes, that goes in hand, but if you don't have that drive and if you aren't the Energizer bunny, that's okay. Pick one thing, go all in and invest in it. And that's my advice.
That's awesome. I love that. A couple people I follow talk about the effects of compound interest, but not just financially, but compounding, with what you learn, because the more you learn, the easier it becomes to learn, but also you start to be able to connect these different things that you've studied, and you have 1 + 1 all of a sudden equals 3 or 4 or 5. And so it's just that compounding effect, whether it's in, learning, whether it's in your physical exercise or, your financial savings. So great advice. Hey, Mario, awesome talking to you. Your enthusiasm and zest for life is contagious. Really enjoyed the conversation. And, thanks again, man, for coming on the Grow Fast podcast again.
Mark, thank you, bro, for having me. It's always great to talk with you. And I'm so glad that we had a chance to connect up, and hopefully these insights help individuals to be able to accelerate in their career. And hey, by the way, try flymessage.io. It's free and you'll love it and what it can do for you with LinkedIn, sentence rewrite, paragraph rewrite. And by the way, Mark, from the last time, we've added on a ton more features, including I'm taking on Grammarly. And so awesome. We've added on the AI grammar checker, and we are going head to head with Grammarly. As a matter of fact, they figured out who we were and they tried to overlay their app on top of ours, and we overlaid back on top of theirs. So I love the fact that they know who we are.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, Mario, thanks again, man.
Thank you, Mark.